The world of Vyrlia was dying. Once it had been a shining world of light, towers made of crystal, skis painted with ribbons of gold, and songs that carried across the cities like wind. Now it was a graveyard. The sky burned red, and the air tasted of metal and smoke. The ground cracked beneath the weight of old wars. What had once been beautiful now lay broken. Through the silence walked a single human, Captain Elias Ward. His armor was covered in dust, his steps heavy, but his eyes stayed sharp. He had walked for miles through the ruins, guided only by memory and the faint light of his helmet lamp. He had been here before, years ago when this place still lived, when the alien people known as the Zerathi had smiled at him with glowing faces and soft, musical voices. They had trusted him. They had called him the man with the heart of fire. Now they were gone. Almost all of them. Elias climbed a broken staircase and stepped into what had once been the palace courtyard. The great silver trees that had once sung in the wind were dead, their branches sharp and hollow. Shards of light crystal littered the ground, reflecting the dim sky like shattered glass. He looked up at the palace ahead. It was still standing barely. Its walls glimmered faintly, cracked but not fallen. Somewhere inside, he knew, the queen still waited. His hand tightened around the strap of his rifle, not because he expected a fight, but because the weight of it was familiar. It reminded him who he was, a soldier, a protector. He whispered to himself, one last promise to keep. Inside, the palace was dark. His boots echoed in the long, empty halls. The air shimmered faintly, still charged with the old power that once filled this place. The walls, made of living crystal, pulsed with dim light, like the slow heartbeat of something dying but not yet dead. He followed the faint sound of a hum, the kind of sound he remembered from the royal chambers. It was like a song, soft and trembling. Then he saw her. The queen of Vyrlia, Lysera, sat upon her broken throne. Once she had been radiant, tall, graceful, her body glowing like starlight under water. Her 6 arms had moved like silk, her voice like a melody that touched the soul. Now she was thin and pale, her glow fading to a faint shimmer. Her tendrils of silver hair hung limp around her shoulders. When she saw him, she lifted her head slowly, as if even that small motion cost her strength. "Human," she whispered, her voice still musical despite the pain. "You came back." Elias took off his helmet. His face was tired and lined with scars, but his eyes were steady. "I told you I would," he said softly. "I don't break promises." The queen gave a faint smile, a sad, beautiful thing. "You are the only one who kept their word. The others left when the light began to fade." Elias looked around the hall. The walls were cracked, the once living crystals dying, their glow flickering. "I tried to bring help," he said, "but Earth turned its eyes away. They said Vyrlia was lost." "Lost," she repeated, the word trembling on her lips. "Perhaps we are." Her gaze lifted to him, and for a long moment neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy, filled with all the things they had lost, all the things they still refused to surrender. Finally she said, her voice barely more than breath, "I called for you, Elias Ward, not to save me, but to save what remains." He stepped closer, confused. "What do you mean?" Her hands, elegant, almost transparent, gripped the arm of her throne. "My daughter," she said, "the last of my blood, the last light of Vyrlia." Elias froze. You have a daughter." "Yes," the queen whispered. "She is young, too young to rule, and now she sleeps, trapped between life and death. The sickness, the curse our enemies left behind, it is killing her." Her silver eyes glistened with tears that shimmered like liquid light. "Your people's medicine cannot stop it. Nothing of ours can cure it. But you, your kind is different. You carry something we lost long ago." Elias shook his head slowly. "I'm no doctor, I can't." She raised a trembling hand. "Your body fights where ours fails. When you saved me once, when you gave me your blood to heal my wounds, my life lingered. For a moment, I felt strength again. I felt the warmth of your world in my veins." Elia's heart pounded. He remembered that day, how he'd given her a transfusion after a battle, desperate to keep her alive. He hadn't known why it worked. Now he did. "You're saying," he whispered, "you want me to give her my blood?" Lysara's voice broke. "Not just blood, a bond. Our healers say only through full connection, through shared life, can the sickness be destroyed. It will take much from you, perhaps everything." The words hung in the air like a shadow. Elias looked at her, really looked. The cracks on her skin glowed faintly. The throne room flickered with dying light. Everything about her world screamed end, and yet her eyes still held hope. He stepped forward, his boots scraping against the glass floor. "Show me," he said quietly. The Queen's lips parted in surprise. "You would." "I said I came back to help," Elias interrupted softly. "Now show me your daughter." For the first time, the faintest shimmer of color returned to her glow. Hope. "Follow me," she whispered. And as Elias followed her through the dim halls, the walls themselves seemed to sigh, as if the dying palace could feel something changing. The storm outside grew louder, red lightning flickering across the sky. In that moment, Elias Ward, the last human on Virlia, didn't know if he would live or die. He only knew one thing. He had come to keep his promise, and he wasn't leaving until he did. The Queen's footsteps were slow, her glowing form faint against the dark halls. Captain Elias followed close behind, his heart pounding in the silence. The palace seemed to breathe around them, the walls pulsing with dim light, the air thick with old energy. Every few steps, a piece of crystal would crack and fall, echoing like a sigh. Neither of them spoke. There were no words big enough for what hung between them, the weight of an entire dying world. At last, they stopped before a tall set of doors. They were made of living glass, etched with silver veins that shimmered faintly in the light of the Queen's fatting aura. She raised one trembling hand and pressed it against the surface. The doors opened with a soft hum, revealing a chamber filled with a soft, blue glow. Elias' breath caught. The room was unlike any place he had seen on Virlia. It was quiet, almost peaceful, untouched by the ruin outside. In the center of the chamber stood a crystal cradle, its surface alive with slow, gentle light. Inside it, wrapped in strands of silver silk, lay a small figure. The Queen's daughter. She looked almost human and yet not. Her skin was pale and faintly translucent, glowing softly from within like moonlight under water. Her hair, if it could be called that, floated around her head in delicate strands of light. Her eyes were closed, her breathing weak and shallow. Every few seconds, the glow of her body dimmed, then flickered back, like a candle struggling to stay lit. Elias took a step closer, lowering his helmet. "She's just a child," he whispered. "She is 12 cycles," Lysara said softly. Her voice trembled not from weakness but from pain. "Too young to rule, too young to die." Elias looked down at the little girl again. Something in his chest twisted. Even through all the battles, through all the years of war and loss, he had never seen something so fragile. He could see the faint blue veins of light beneath her skin, fatting in and out. "What's her name?" he asked quietly. "Lyra," the Queen whispered. "It means Song of the Dawn." Elias swallowed. "Fitting. She looks like the first light of morning." The Queen looked at him then, and there was something new in her eyes, something softer than sorrow, deeper than gratitude. "She is my world," she said, "and my world is dying." Elias felt the words like a knife. He had seen death before, soldiers, civilians, friends, but this was different. This was an entire species fatting away, their last light flickering before him. He clenched his hands. "Tell me what I have to do." The Queen moved to the cradle. Her many hands hovered above her daughter, the faint light from her body weaving into the air like mist. "Our healers have tried everything," she said. "No medicine, no crystal, no energy can stop the decay. But your blood, your human blood, resists it. It fought the same sickness in me. It healed what our science could not. Elias frowned. That worked because you were still strong, but she's fatting fast, I don't know if. The bond must be full, the queen interrupted softly. Not just your blood, but your essence, your life force. It will pass into her through the ancient ritual of our kind. It is dangerous. It may take from you what you cannot give. He stared at her. You mean it could kill me? Her silver eyes filled with tears. Yes. The silence stretched between them. The queen's glow flickered. The storm outside rumbled, lightning flashing through the cracks of the palace roof. Elias stepped forward. If I do this, he said slowly, will she live? Lysara's voice broke. If the bond holds, yes, she will live, and she will carry part of you within her forever. He looked down at the small figure in the cradle again. She was breathing so softly he could barely see her chest rise and fall. She looked peaceful, like she was already half in another world. A memory stirred in him, his little sister on Earth, years ago, dying in a hospital bed. He'd held her hand until the end, promising he would save someone else someday. Someone who still had a chance. Maybe this was it. He took a deep breath. Then let's do it. The queen stared at him, her expression caught between disbelief and awe. You would give your life for her. He gave a small smile. I'm a soldier. I've given my life 100 times already. This time maybe it'll mean something. Lysara's lower hands trembled as she reached out, her touch light on his arm. Human, no Zarathi would ask this of you. This is beyond duty, beyond war. Elias met her eyes. I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because she deserves to see the stars. For a long time the queen said nothing. Then she bowed her head, the proud queen of Vyrlia, bowing to a mortal man. Then let the stars bear witness, she whispered. She began to chant softly. The air grew heavy, shimmering with light that flowed from her hands into the cradle. The walls around them glowed, pulsing with a rhythm that matched Elias' heartbeat. The queen turned to him. Place your hand upon her heart, she said. Elias knelt beside the child, his hand trembling slightly as he pressed it to her chest. Her skin was cool, almost weightless beneath his touch. The queen's voice rose, the light growing brighter and warmer. A stream of blue energy flowed from Elias' chest, through his arm into the child. It burned not with pain but with life. He felt his strength leaving him, flowing into her. The chamber filled with light, so bright it turned everything white. Then silence. Elias gasped, collapsing forward. The queen caught him with two arms, the others still cradling her daughter. The little girl's glow had changed. It burned steady now, stronger, brighter. Her chest rose with a clear, deep breath. She lives, the queen whispered, tears running down her silver cheeks. By the stars she lives. Elias smiled weakly, his voice barely a whisper. Good. Then the light around him dimmed, and everything went black. When Elias opened his eyes, the world was quiet. The blue light of Vyrlia's morning crept through the cracks of the broken palace roof. Dust hung in the air, glittering like stars. For a long moment, he didn't know where he was, only that every breath hurt, every heartbeat felt heavy and slow. He turned his head and saw the queen, Lysara, kneeling beside the crystal cradle. Her glow was stronger now, faint but steady, like a fire that refused to die. Her many arms cradled a smaller figure, the child, the princess. Lyra was awake. She looked around with wide, silvery blue eyes, soft light shining from her skin. Her little fingers grasped her mother's hand, alive, breathing. The sickness was gone. Elias felt something break inside him, not from pain, but from wonder. She's alive, he whispered. The queen turned to him, her eyes bright with tears. Yes, because of you. He tried to sit up, but his strength failed him. His body trembled, his muscles weak. What happened to me? Lysara reached out, resting a hand on his chest. He felt a faint pulse beneath his skin, but it was not the same as before. It was different, lighter, like something was missing. The bond worked, she said softly. Your life force joined with hers. A piece of you now lives within my daughter. You share one rhythm, one heartbeat between two souls. Elias closed his eyes. He could feel it, a strange warmth in his chest, soft and distant, like a second heartbeat echoing inside him. He looked toward Lyra again. She was standing now, small and unsteady. Her eyes, once pure silver, now shimmered faintly with blue, the color of human skis. She saw him watching her. Hesitant at first, she took a few small steps toward him. The queen started to speak, but the child gently brushed her mother's hand away and knelt beside Elias. Her tiny hand touched his face, warm, alive. You're the one who saved me, she said. Her voice was small but clear, like the chime of a bell. Elias smiled weakly. Guess I did. Why? He blinked. Why what? Why did you save me? He looked at her, at those bright, strange eyes that now carried a hint of blue. Because everyone deserves a chance to live, he said softly, even when the world says it's over. Lyra tilted her head as if thinking deeply. You gave me part of you. He nodded slowly. Looks that way. She smiled, a bright, innocent thing that made the whole room feel alive again. Then I'll keep it safe. Elias felt his throat tighten. That's all I ask. For a while none of them spoke. The storm outside had quieted. Through the broken walls, beams of pale light poured in, falling across the three of them like a promise. The queen rose slowly, her glow reflecting on the crystal walls. Elias, ward of Earth, she said softly, you have done what no being in this galaxy could do. You gave life to a world not your own. He managed a half smile. You're making it sound bigger than it is. It is big, she said, stepping closer. To us, you are not just a soldier. You are a bridge between two races, between despair and hope, between death and life. Her hand brushed his shoulder gently. The contact sent a ripple of warmth through him, like standing near a sunrise. You have my eternal gratitude. Elias sighed, exhaustion heavy in his bones. Gratitude's nice, he murmured, but I'd rather have a bed. Lysara actually laughed, a soft, musical sound that echoed through the hall. It was the first laugh this palace had heard in years. You will have one, and more. You are no longer a visitor to Virlia, Elias. You are part of us now. He wanted to argue, to tell her he didn't belong here. But as he looked around at the queen, at the little girl watching him with those new human-colored eyes, he realized something deep inside him had changed. He did belong here. Later, as the queen and her healers tended to the child, Elias sat near the broken doorway, watching the horizon. The light outside was strange, a mix of red and gold that shimmered over the wrecked city. But for the first time it didn't look dead. It looked like it was healing. He felt movement beside him and turned to see Lyra climbing up the steps. She sat beside him, small legs dangling over the edge. Does it hurt? She asked quietly. He looked down at his hands. They trembled slightly, still pale from what he'd given. A little, he said, but pain's not always bad. It means you're still here. She nodded seriously, as if memorizing the words. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind move through the ruins. Then she said softly, Mother says your people live far away, in the stars. Yeah, he said, a long way from here. Will you go back? Elias stared at the burning horizon. He thought about the empty halls of Earth Command, the people who had left this world to die. Then he looked at her, at the life he had helped save. He smiled, not yet. Lyra leaned her head against his arm, her glow casting faint light across his chest. Good, she said sleepily, because I think I'd miss you. Elias' heart twisted in a way he couldn't explain. He looked out at the ruins, and for the first time since the war, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Far behind them, the queen watched in silence. She saw her daughter safe in the arms of the human who had given everything to save her. And she whispered into the still air, her voice soft as light. "Human, my daughter needed you, and you came." The wind carried her words through the broken towers, out into the sky, where they lingered like a prayer. Days passed on Virlia. The red storms faded, and for the first time in years, sunlight broke through the clouds. It poured across the shattered city, bringing warmth to the cold towers and life to the soil that had long forgotten how to breathe. Captain Elias Ward walked through the palace gardens, what was left of them. The trees were broken, the flowers burned to ash, but new shoots had begun to rise, small, green, stubborn. He smiled when he saw them. Life had a strange way of coming back when no one expected it. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed. "Elias." He turned to see Lyra running toward him. Her laughter filled the air like music. The glow of her skin was warm now, her steps light and quick. No trace of sickness remained. She stopped beside him, her eyes bright with curiosity. "You said these were gardens," she said, tilting her head, "but they look like bones." He chuckled. "They'll grow again, you'll see, give them time." She crouched beside a small green sprout pushing through the soil and touched it gently. The leaf shimmered faintly, reacting to her glow. "It feels alive." "It is," he said. "Everything wants to live, even when it hurts." Lyra looked up at him, studying his face. "You hurt." Elias paused. His body still ached every morning. He still felt that strange echo in his chest, the second heartbeat that wasn't his alone. But he didn't want her to worry. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I'll be fine." She nodded, though her eyes said she didn't believe him. That night Elias sat alone in the great hall. The stars of Virlia glowed faintly through the cracks in the roof, not white like earth, but silver and soft. He leaned against a broken column, half asleep, when the air around him began to shimmer. The queen appeared, her light dim but steady. "You should rest," she said. He looked up, smiling faintly. "Can't sleep, I keep feeling things." Her expression softened. "The bond is not only of body but of spirit. You share her strength, her memories, and her pain." He frowned. "Pain?" "She dreams," the queen said quietly. "She remembers the sickness, the fear. Those feelings may find their way to you." Elias rubbed his temples. "That explains the nightmares." The queen approached, her many arms moving with the grace of light. "You gave her part of yourself," she said softly. "But she also gave part of herself to you. That connection will never fade." He looked at her, meeting her silver eyes. "You sound worried." "I am," she admitted. "Such bonds were once sacred to my kind, but they were also dangerous. If her emotions grow too strong, fear, anger, sorrow, you will feel them as your own." Elias laughed weakly. "Guess I'll have to teach her to stay happy then." Lysara smiled sadly. "Teach her, yes, but also protect her. You are tied now, human. Her life is your life." The weight of her words sank deep into him. He nodded slowly. "Then I'll protect her, no matter what." Weeks passed. The palace grew brighter. The few surviving Zarathi who had hidden from the war began to return, following the queen's call. They came limping from the shadows, drawn by the faint pulse of hope returning to their world. They whispered of the human savior, the man who gave his soul to the royal child. When Elias walked among them, they bowed, not out of fear but out of reverence. He hated it. He wasn't a god. He was just a man trying to keep a promise. But every time he saw Lyra smiling, he knew it was worth it. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Elias found Lyra in the garden again. She was kneeling by a pool of clear water, her reflection glowing faintly in the dark. He started to call her name, but stopped. The water around her shimmered with light, forming strange patterns, spirals, shapes, and symbols that seemed to move on their own. Her hands hovered above the surface, and the water obeyed her. "Lyra," he said softly. She looked up, startled. The glowing water fell still. "I was just playing." He knelt beside her, studying the pool. "You're controlling it." She nodded shyly. "It listens to me now, everything does. I can hear the roots beneath the ground. I can feel the air. Elia stared. That's new. Mother says it's because of you, Lyra whispered. Your blood gives me strength my people never had. She says I carry two worlds inside me. Her voice trembled, almost afraid. But sometimes it's too much. It feels like something inside me is burning. Elia's stomach twisted. He put a hand on her shoulder. Then we'll learn to control it together, all right? Whatever this is, it's not a curse. It's a gift. She looked up at him, eyes wide. Will it hurt you too? He forced a smile. Doesn't matter, I'm not going anywhere. She nodded slowly, but there was fear in her face. That night Elias woke with a cry. His chest burned like fire, and his heartbeat pounded against his ribs, two rhythms colliding. Images flashed behind his eyes, not his memories, but hers. The feeling of drowning in light, the voices of the dead, the echo of a child's scream. He fell to his knees, gasping. The world spun around him. Then he heard her voice faint, calling from the next room. Elias. He staggered to her chamber. Lyra was sitting up in her bed, her glow wild and uneven. The air crackled with energy, making the walls hum. Her eyes glowed too bright, the blue of his own world mixed with the silver of hers. I can't stop it, she whispered. It's inside me. Elias reached her, pulling her close. Breathe, Lyra. You're okay, I'm here. She clung to him, trembling, and slowly the light began to fade. The hum died down, the air stilled. When it was over, she looked up at him, tears streaking her cheeks. Something's wrong with me. He held her tighter, his voice rough but steady. Nothing's wrong with you. You're just stronger than the rest of us. But deep inside, Elias felt the truth, the burning inside his chest, the pull between their hearts. Something in the bond was changing. And for the first time, he felt fear. The morning came heavy and quiet. The sunlight over Vyrlia was soft, but the air inside the palace felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Elias sat beside the window, staring at the sky. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. The world outside was healing, yet something inside him was breaking. Every heartbeat felt strange, every breath slower than the last. He could still feel Lyra, her emotions, her dreams, her heartbeat echoing inside him like a distant drum. Since the night of the flare, when her power had burst out of control, something had changed. The bond between them no longer felt like two souls touching. It felt like one being trying to split in two. He heard the door open softly behind him. Elias, the queen's voice whispered. He turned to see Lysara, her glow dimmer than before. Her face, though calm, carried the shadow of worry. She's asleep again, Elias said quietly. But it's not normal. Her body's too warm. Her light flickers every few minutes. The queen came to stand beside him. For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the wind moved gently through the dead gardens, carrying dust that sparkled in the light. The bond is deepening, Lysara said at last. She draws strength from you, but too much, too fast. It is feeding her power and draining yours. Elias clenched his fists. I can handle it. You say that, she said softly, but your eyes tell me otherwise. He turned away. She's just a kid. I won't let her suffer because of me. The queen's silver eyes softened. You misunderstand. She is not the one in danger. Elias looked back sharply. Lysara continued, her voice low and trembling. The power within her grows every day. She is not only my daughter now. She carries your essence, your will, your fire. That human fire burns bright, but it is wild. It will soon outgrow her control. So what are you saying? Elias asked quietly. She'll hurt someone. The queen nodded slowly. Or herself or you. That evening, the light in the palace dimmed. The skies outside grew darker, filled with glowing clouds that pulsed like slow thunder. The bond between human and child trembled like a living thing. Lyra woke from her dreams, breathing hard. She could hear whispers, faint voices of her ancestors, calling her name, warning her. Her body felt like fire and ice all at once. When she looked at her hands, the air around them shimmered with waves of light. She stood frightened. The walls responded to her fear, humming and glowing with her pulse. "Stop," she whispered to herself. "Please stop." But the light only grew stronger. Elias burst into the room moments later, the door sliding open under his push. "Lyra." She turned to him, tears glowing on her cheeks. "I can't stop it, it hurts." He ran to her, grabbing her hands. The energy leapt between them, bright, burning, alive. Pain shot through him, but he didn't let go. "Listen to me," he said through gritted teeth. "You're not alone, you're safe. Focus on my voice." Her breathing quickened. "It's too much, I can feel everything." "Then feel me," he said, pressing her hands to his chest. "Feel my heart match it." She closed her eyes. For a moment the light wavered, flickering like a candle in the wind. Elias kept speaking, his voice low and steady. "You're stronger than this. You're my light, remember, the one who'll see the stars." Slowly her glow began to calm, the air stilled, the humming in the walls faded. When it was over, Lyra collapsed against him, shaking. "It hurts, Elias," she whispered. "Why does it hurt so much?" He held her tightly. "Because growing always hurts, but you'll get through it." Behind them, the queen stood in the doorway, silent. Her expression was unreadable, half sorrow, half awe. Later, after the child had fallen asleep, Elias found the queen standing in the gardens beneath the twin moons. He joined her quietly. "She almost lost control," he said. "I know," Lysara murmured. "I felt it too. The bond between you is strong enough to shake the energy of this world." He frowned. "You sound afraid." "I am," she admitted. "Such power has not existed among my kind since before memory, and it now lives in my daughter, a child who carries both alien light and human fire, two hearts in one body." She turned to him, her voice breaking. "You are the only one who can reach her when she loses control. The bond makes you her anchor, but if it grows stronger—" He waited. "If it grows stronger, what?" "It could destroy you," she whispered. "When she burns, you will burn. When she breaks, so will you. Her power will not stop at her body. It will flow through the bond into you." Elias looked up at the twin moons. "Then I'll hold on as long as I can." "You would die for her," the queen said softly. He smiled sadly. "I already did remember." The queen's voice trembled. "You cannot protect her forever. One day she must control the power herself. That is what I fear." Elias turned toward her. "Then teach her. You, your people, help her. Don't let her be alone in this." The queen hesitated, then nodded. "You speak as though she were yours." "She is," Elias said simply. "Part of her is me now, and part of me is her." For a moment they stood in silence, the wind carrying faint echoes of old songs through the dead garden. Then Lysara said quietly, "You are more than human, Elias Ward. You are the heart that refuses to break." He smiled faintly. "That's all we humans ever were, stubborn hearts that don't know when to stop beating." That night he sat by Lyra's bedside, watching her sleep. Her face was calm, her breathing steady. The faint blue glow beneath her skin pulsed gently in time with his own heartbeat. He reached out, brushing a strand of light from her face. "You'll be okay," he whispered. "You have to be." But deep down he knew the fire inside her was growing. And when it finally came to burn, it would come for both of them. The days that followed were quiet, too quiet. The sun shone softer, the air clearer, and the broken palace of Virlia seemed almost peaceful. Yet every calm hides a storm, and Elias could feel it growing deep inside both him and Lyra. At first it was small things, a flicker of light when she laughed, a faint hum in the air when she grew upset. But soon, the signs became impossible to ignore. The walls would shake with every dream she had. The air would shimmer when she cried. And through it all, Elias felt her heartbeat inside his chest, faster, stronger, sometimes wild. He knew something was coming. One night the sky broke. Dark clouds gathered above the ruins, glowing with violent silver fire. The ground trembled and the air crackled with energy. Elias ran through the palace halls, following the pull in his chest. He already knew where she was. He could feel her fear like a blade cutting through his thoughts. He found her in the Hall of Stars, standing before the great broken window where the moons poured their light. Her small body shook, her glow flaring like a dying sun. "Lyra," he called. She turned, her eyes burning bright, not blue, not silver, but both. The air around her twisted, the stones floating weightlessly. Her voice broke as she cried, "I can't stop it, Elias. It hurts." He stepped closer, feeling the heat of her power beating against him like a storm wind. "Listen to me, you can control it." She shook her head. "It's too strong. Every time I feel something, it grows. Every time I think of you, it burns." Elia's chest throbbed with pain, his own body reacting to her chaos. "Then let it burn through me," he said through clenched teeth. "If this bond means anything, then let me take it." Lyra's tears fell, glowing as they hit the ground and sizzled into light. "If I give it to you, you'll die." "Better me than you," he said softly. She screamed, shaking her head. "No!" The air exploded with energy, throwing him back. Cracks spread across the walls, light pouring through them. Outside, the sky wept lightning. The queen entered the hall then, her voice breaking with fear. "Lyra, stop! You'll destroy yourself." The child turned, trembling. "Mother, I can't." "Let me help," the queen said, reaching out, her 6 arms glowing with divine light. "Let me draw it out." But when her hands touched her daughter's shoulders, she gasped, the power burning her palms. "She's too far gone," Elias shouted, pulling himself up. Lysara's face twisted in anguish. "No, I won't lose her again." The light from Lyra's body spread outward, climbing up the walls, filling the room with blinding radiance. The palace trembled to its roots. The queen fell to her knees, her strength fading. Elias stumbled forward, fighting through the wind of energy tearing at him. "Lyra," he yelled, "look at me." Her eyes flicked toward him. "It's hurting you." "Doesn't matter. I feel your pain." "Then feel this too," he said, placing his hands over her heart. "You're not alone, you never were." The world vanished in white light. He saw everything, her memories, her fears, her loneliness. He saw the little girl crying in the cold after the war, feeling the weight of a dying world. And beneath it all, he saw his own memories bleeding into hers, Earth, his sister, the faces of those he couldn't save. 2 lives tangled, 2 hearts beating as one. He felt the fire inside her and reached into it. "Let it out," he whispered. "I'm here." Her voice trembled. "If I do, it will burn everything." "Then burn it through me." Outside, the sky cracked open. A storm of light rose from the palace, painting the heavens with silver fire. The ground shook, the towers split, and the world of Vyrlia seemed to hold its breath. Elias' body burned with unbearable heat, but he didn't let go. The light coursed through him, wild and pure, flooding his veins with fire. He screamed not from pain, but from release. And then slowly, the storm began to fade. When the light died, he was on his knees, holding the child in his arms. She was breathing softly, her glow dim and gentle again. The air was still, the world calm once more. The queen knelt beside them, tears streaming down her face. "Is she?" Elias nodded weakly. "She's alive." Lysara touched his cheek. "And you?" He smiled faintly, though his eyes looked distant. "Still here, mostly." She looked at him, understanding dawning in her expression. "You took it into yourself." "Someone had to," he said. "She's just a kid." "You can't hold that kind of power," the queen whispered. "It will consume you." He chuckled weakly. Wouldn't be the first time something on this planet tried. They carried Lyra to her chamber. She slept peacefully, her heartbeat strong. Elias sat beside her bed, his hand resting over his chest. The pain was gone now, replaced by something deeper, a steady warmth that pulsed with her rhythm. The queen stood at the doorway silent. "You've saved her twice," she said quietly. Elias didn't look up. That's what fathers do. Her breath caught at the word, fathers. He finally met her gaze. "She's yours, but she's also mine now, not by blood but by bond." Lysara stepped closer. "You gave her your strength, your fire, but you've also given her something my kind never had." He tilted his head. "What's that?" She smiled faintly, tears shining in her eyes. "The human heart." Elias looked down at the sleeping child and whispered, "Then she'll be unstoppable." That night the queen stood by the window, looking at the stars, brighter than they had been in years. And far below, Elias sat beside Lyra, his body weak but his eyes calm. The bond between them had changed once again, quieter now but stronger, deeper. It no longer burned, it pulsed with life. The world of Vyrlia slept under its new dawn, unaware that its salvation came not from gods or armies, but from a single human heart that refused to give up.